Hey, hey, check 1, 2. Welcome back, everybody, to this week's installment of the JR the Handler Show with me, JR the Handler. Thank you guys and gals out there in podcast land for tuning in this week, downloading it, all that good stuff. Thank you so much. Hope y'all enjoy the show this week. Hope you've enjoyed the last couple weeks' episodes. Had a really great time doing those and catching up with some friends, and I've got another good one today. I've got a buddy coming on today I've known for a long time. He has been, we were just talking off air, we've been friends for a long time. I don't even know his whole story, and I know a lot, and it's enough. It's a career full what I know. So we're going to all get filled in today. It should be really good, and several tie-ins with this guest today. Obviously, we've known each other for a long time. He's been with several acts, and we're actually doing a lot of shows together this year. We did a few last year. Because my guest today is none other than the rock and roller himself, currently tour manager for Brother Joe Nichols, my buddy, Mr. Mike Nash. How are you, Mike?
I'm good, buddy. How are you today?
I'm good, brother, man. Sorry, sorry I'm running a little behind. Thanks for jumping on with me today. I know we talked a little off air before we started about this deal. And, yeah, like we were saying, you know, we talk at gigs, you know, a lot of times it's work stuff. You'll mix in some personal stuff. You get to know each other for a little bit, but rarely do we have time to sit down for any long length of time without being distracted by something to really catch up like this. I mean, you get the little bits and pieces and you put together and you run into your other friend and you say, oh, I saw so-and-so. And you're like, oh, did you know he did this or she did that? You're like, oh, I didn't know that. They didn't mention that. And so you piece it together. But I've noticed doing this the last couple of weeks, well, the whole time I've started this podcast, it's really interesting how much stuff you don't know about each other, even though you think you know a lot. You know what I mean?
Right. No, absolutely.
Because you just don't get that time, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, I was watching your podcast with Gossett a couple days ago, and it's like when I first got into country, Gossett was one of the first guys. You know, he was out with Trace, and I was with Cagle, and we all that's 6 degrees of Chris Cagle.
Another tie. I know the tie-ins there. I thought about that today. I was like, I didn't even think about all the tie-ins with Cagle coming back. I couldn't find my Cagle shirt again. Like I told him, I couldn't find my Cagle, but I wore my best rock and roll Iron Maiden shirt in your honor, brother.
That's funny. Actually, a buddy of mine, Brent, who got in the business about the same time I did, he actually worked his way up to bass teching for Iron Maiden these days.
Really?
And, yeah, but it's crazy. But it was good to love catching up with Gossett and you on the road. Looking forward to this summer. So we should have a lot of fun out there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, you know, that's funny you say that. So going back, we'll go back to that, your first time getting into country, because prior to that, you had worked in the rock world. And going back way before that, just where are you from? Did you play music? Were you in a band growing up? How was high school? Then how did the music thing first start?
Yeah, you know, I born in Garfield Heights, Ohio, born and raised in Ohio, and, you know, picked up, you know, loved Bon Jovi. That was one of the first bands, you know, I was born in 74. So by, 1980, I was about 6 and getting into music. And, Bon Jovi was that band. And I was like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. I want to be Richie Sambora when I grow up, you know, went and bought a guitar and it was like twing, twang, twing. I was like, man, what is this? You makes it look so easy. And, got discouraged, you know, but I can play a little guitar now, but, you know, enough to tune it and some other things. But yeah, so, you know, grew up on the rock scene all those years, growing up in high school, listening to, you know, Def Leppard, Motley Crue, Bon Jovi, Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, all those bands. And graduated in 92. And then around 95, Slaughter, one of the 80s hair bands, Slaughter, was coming around Cleveland. Me and a couple of my buddies went, got to meet them, hang out with them and all that stuff. They're really cool. And every time they came around the area, we'd go see them, and got to the point where I was like, man, it's fun to hang out with the band, but man, I like what those guys are doing. You know, I was like, I want to work. So
Yeah.
I'd find out when they were coming back, and I'd be like, hey man, what time you guys load in? Oh, we load in at 12. I was like, all right, I'll be there. And they're like, really? Why? I was like, why not? I was like, this is fun. I'm in the trailer unloading gear and, you know, ending the night packing it up for them, all this stuff. And, you know, they're feeding me and stuff like that. It was just fun. And that's how I got my foot in the door. And then it was around 96. They called me up fall of '96. Dana, who's the bass player manager, and he's like, hey man, can you come on the road with us for 3 weeks? We're heading up to the Northeast and we need a guy. And I was like, let me call my boss because I was working at a car dealership. And when I graduated high school, I started working at a car dealership, porter, just whatever, oil changes, making appointments, whatever they needed. I was like, let me call my boss. I'm sure he'll let me go. So called him up. I was like, hey Elmer, can I have the next 3 weeks off? And he's like, you got any vacation time? I'm like, no. He's like, well then no. I'm like, what do you mean no? I go on tour with a rock band. Like,
Yeah.
he's like, man, I can't do it. I need you. And I was like, okay. So I called them up. I was like, man, I can't go. And I just sat there like, there it goes. There's my one chance, there's my chance to get in the music business. And just went out the door. Oh, well. Then 97 came along and they came around Ohio a few times, just seeing them hung out. We got talking. I became really good friends with Mark Slaughter, who used to, live in Nashville there, great guy. And
Right.
when they were going out in '98, they called me up. I was like, hey man, you want to come on the road with us? And I was like 23, wasn't even 24 yet, living at home with my parents. I was like, sure. I'm like, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna go on tour with a rock band, tour US, lots of fun. Okay. They called me up, Dana. He's like, well, Mark tells me you want to come on the road. I was like, yeah, I'm ready. This will be fun. He's like, okay. He goes, we don't have any money to pay you. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, man, tour buses cost a lot of money. Money's tight. It's not 1989 anymore. We're just making ends meet. I'm just, 23-year-old kid from Ohio. I'm like, that's okay. I'm like, are you gonna feed me? He's like, yeah, I'll give you 3 meals a day, bunk on the bus, hot shower, blah blah blah. I was like, I'm in. Sign me up.
Yep.
He's like, really? I'm like, yeah, why not? So I literally flew out there. Then the best was then they called me back like, well, we didn't have money to fly you out to Vegas. They were starting a tour in Vegas. That's where they were based. And I was like, all right. Looked in the newspaper, found somebody selling a Southwest voucher at the time, $100, bought it, booked my flight, called them back, was like, all right, I booked my flight. You at least gonna have somebody pick me up? Oh yeah, we'll have somebody pick you up. Went out there, started, and then first week out when he's paying everybody cash, he comes to me. He's like, "How much was your flight?" I was like, $100. He's like, "There's your $100." He goes, "Now it didn't cost you nothing to come out here." I was like, "Hey, all right, that's a
Yeah,
win."
that's
And
a good start. That's a good
you
start.
know,
I
it's a
mean, I
good,
was in the
it's a good.
same boat. I got. I mean, I just was doing it for a while with Wayne Mills, and then at some point, the guitar player Peso comes up to me and gives me like $40, and I'm like, "What's this?" He said, "That's some walking around money," and I was like, "It might as well have been a million." I was like, "Hey, I finally
Yeah,
got paid."
yeah, exactly. And we're out there every week, and he's paying everybody their little envelopes, and he'd come to me and he'd be like, "Mike Nash, here's $100," and I'm like, "Yes!" And
Yes.
everybody's like looking at me like, "You're excited over $100?" I'm like, "Man, that's $100 I wasn't expecting to get."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
When you
I'm
have
like, man, that,
zero, 100 is a lot.
yeah. So I mean, you know how the rock thing is too. We left like June 3rd. We didn't come back till it was like the beginning of September. Then we had like 2 weeks off, and then we went back out for another 6 weeks. So all they did was save my money. I mean, you get loads of bus stock and booze and all that. I mean, that's all I did was eat and drink and didn't cost me nothing. I remember going to him in December after we'd been out for 6 months off and on. I remember going, Dana, like, and during that time, like I said, I was just, they had a guitar tech, they had a sound guy, they had everybody, they didn't need me. I was
Right.
just extra hands, but I'd help load in, load out, help set up merch. And then at some point, Dana would be like, you want to, go send off the bus payment for me, or do you want to go do a hotel check-in for me? I was like, yeah, I'll do that. So I learned how to tour manage from him, everything he taught me, the good, the bad, when to be nice when you're getting screwed from somebody, but you're like, you're playing Mr. Nice Guy with them just so you can get what you're supposed to, like, I would
Yeah.
touch on a story about that, but he taught me all those things. And then I went to him in December of that year and I was like, hey man, look. And I showed, I had my little fanny pack back then, had about 3 or 4 grand in there, nothing. He's like, where'd you get all that money? I was like, dude, that's everything you've given me. I'm like, I haven't spent a dime out here. I'm like, nothing. And it was good, and then he brought me back the next year and brought me as a guitar tech. Like the guy that we had, his grandfather passed away, so he had to leave for a couple of days. And I stepped in. They're like, you can tune a guitar? I'm like, yeah. and set up the guitar player's rig. Didn't have a clue what I was doing, but I was like, it can't be that hard. Till the rig went down on stage, and then it was like, he's like looking at me, and I'm like, ah, check the power. I don't know. What do I do?
Reset.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. And then I laughed. The next year we went out. Blando, the guitar player, love him. He's like, man, I'm going to make my rig so simple for you. I was like, okay. He's like, I'm going to build this multi-pin. Like everything is right there. You plug this in and plug that in. And I'm like, okay, what do I do when it goes down? And he was
Yeah,
like,
right.
hopefully it won't go down. And it did one time, amphitheater in front of 15,000 people, middle of guitar solo goes down. I'm like, tried this, tried that, didn't work. I was like, I don't know what to do. Sorry.
I mean, it's gear, man. Gear gives out sometimes. Needs to be adjusted. It
Yeah,
happens.
no, totally. But it's funny when I tell about how Dana had said to me about when to we played this one gig with Skid Row. I was with Skid Row in 2001 after that, and played this small club in Arkansas. And promoter never sent in a deposit, and the booking agent was like, "Man, you can't, you got to get that deposit before you do anything, before you crack that trailer door." Which back then we were in a Ryder truck and a van, and we were just slumming it across the U.S. And but I drove the Ryder truck. I was guitar tech, bass tech, drum tech, merch guy, and I had one other guy that took care of the other guitar player. But I did like five things. So if I
Wow.
didn't crack that trailer door at 12 o'clock
It
and
wasn't
start
getting happening.
working,
Yeah.
I was screwed. So
Yeah.
we show up. I was like, "Hey man, you gotta give me my money." He's like, "Oh, my partner went to the bank to go get it." I was like, "All right, I'll wait 30 minutes." So I wait. Comes about two, now it gets about 1:30. I was like, "Bro, oh, he got caught. He had to go do this and that." And I'm like, "I'm gonna trust you." I said, "I got to start working because if I don't, I'm gonna be behind the eight ball." As soon as he shows up, give it to me. Okay. So I set up on stage, go through sound check, band didn't show up. Gets gets to be doors. People's coming in. This guy still hadn't given me money yet. And I'm like, man, this is not gonna end well. And so I go into the office and guy's like, "Man, can I write you a check?" And I was like, "Well, you do this first." I said, "You give me my first half in cash, like you were supposed to at 12. You give me that. I'll take a check. I trust you." He's like,
You're
"Okay, give me 30 minutes." Okay. Called the band. I was like, "This show ain't gonna happen." I said, "I'll tell you right now, I'm not taking a check." I said, "But I'm getting the deposit like I'm supposed to, and you're not gonna have to leave the hotel room." I said, "If something changes, I'll call you, but I don't think it's gonna happen." So I go back in the office like 30 minutes later, and he had cash for me. He's like, "All right, who do I make the check out to?" I was like, "I can't take a check." He's like, "But you said," I'm like, "I know. You said my money was gonna be here at noon." I said, "I can't do it. You got to get me another half cash or I'm out." He's like, "Well, I guess you should just pack up and leave." I was like, "Okay, see you later." Called the van guys. I was like, which I couldn't get in trouble because I got my deposit like I was
right.
supposed to.
And you knew
So
you weren't going to get your other half.
yeah, but I had to get that deposit
You
or
had
I
to
would
get
have
the
been like,
deposit, or
dude,
it was a definite
or,
waste. You had to recoup something, and because you knew then if you didn't, you weren't going to get your other half. You weren't going to get any overages that you were bonuses you might
yeah,
get into, and you just knew this was not going to be good business. Let me get what I can get, and let's get out of here while we
let's
can.
just get out of here. And the agent said that you did the right thing. You got the first half like you were supposed to, and let's just move on from it. So,
Yep. Yeah. And it
but
sucks it has to come to that sometimes, but it does. I mean, even as of recent, I'm out there in the parking lot waiting on a promoter way longer than I wanted to. And I'm like, buddy, this is not how you do business, especially at this level. If
yeah.
you ever want to do this again, I would highly encourage you to tighten your process up there,
Yeah,
buddy.
absolutely. And I haven't, I've been with Joe 11 years now. I did the rock thing, Slaughter, Skid Row, did some John Waite stuff, Vince Neil from Motley Crue, which was a lot of fun. And then
Vince is a
through,
trip, isn't he?
oh my God, he is, he's the, he really is truly a genuine person. He
Yeah.
is. And when he's your friend and he knows you, and I know you guys did that stuff back in like 14, the Motley tribute thing with Justin and all that. It's like, he really is a good guy. I feel
Really
sorry
is.
for him. I know he's been through a lot in his life and brings a lot of things on himself, but he truly is a genuine person when he sees you. He remembers you, and it makes you feel good when it's like you sit back and go, man, that's Vince Neil from Motley Crue, and remember watching him on MTV, and now he calls me. It's like, what?
Right, right. Yeah, this is back when I smoked cigs, but hanging out back of the alley behind Third and Lindsley and having a cig with Nikki and Mick and a couple of the crew guys between takes on a video shoot. I'm just thinking, I am sitting here having a cig with Motley Crue. Are you friggin' kidding me? And you're right. They all were super, cool. Really. I mean, obviously Mick was in bad shape, but Vince couldn't have been nicer. And yeah, like you said, always goes out of his way to give Justin a hug and give us some love when he sees us. And it's funny, people think just country just lives in its own little world, but we touch all the music touches each other. And, that's the thing. I mean, one of the highlights of those connections is the cruise coming to New Orleans with Alice Cooper a couple years ago, and it's sold to the gills. And I knew my wife's a huge fan. Obviously I am too, but I was going to be on the road. So make a call. Next thing you know, Vince is like, no problem. Left some friends and family tickets for my wife in New Orleans for the cruise show. And I mean, that's just, it was so easy to do it. No problem. One of those deals. Yeah. So I'll always appreciate them for that. And that's where country and rock blend, and it worked out there. But,
totally.
But yeah, so that was his, and that was Vince solo at that time. Was that just the Vince Neil band?
Yeah, it was Vince solo in like 2001. The good thing when I first started with Slaughter, first tour we went on was like LA Guns, Firehouse, Slaughter, Warrant, Quiet Riot.
So it's like my childhood, dude.
Yeah, rock never stops. 98, never forget it. Here I am, like touring with all these bands, and became friends with all those guys. So when Slaughter wasn't on the road, I'd run into Tracy Guns or the Firehouse guys and be like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Man, I'm off for like 3 weeks." "Oh, come with us. We got 3 weeks of dates." And I just do that. I just networked and jumped around, and then Slaughter was on the Poison tour in 2000 with Cinderella and Dokken and Poison. Got to meet and become friends with all the Poison guys. They're great. And then Skid Row was on that tour in 2003 with Vince, Skid Row, and Poison. And it's just a family affair out there. Everybody's great. The whole Poison camp. Everybody's just so genuine and nice, and it's great to be around all those people. Well, Doc McGee, famous rock manager, was managing Skid Row back in the day, and then he was managing them early 2000s as well. He had branched out to the country world in around 2004-ish, 2005, I think. And Chris Cagle was one of his clients, and Frank, who worked at McGee's office, had called me up. He knew I did some stuff with John Waite and some other people, and he's like, "Man, I need this tour manager for country singer we got, Chris Cagle." And I was like, "Oh man, I heard of Chris Cagle. Like, heard a couple songs on the radio." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll try it out. Like, whatever, sure." And they're like, "We think you can handle them." I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "Let's try." They flew me down to Dallas to meet him. Met him at
I lost you, but hope it's going to catch up. Man, that was just getting good.
Got you.
Hey, there you are. No, all good. It happens, brother. I was like, he was just getting rolling too, buddy.
I was getting rolling. I seen you pause right there. I was like, I think he froze up on me. No. So yeah, I flew down there, hung out with Cagle, and told me what he liked, didn't like, all that stuff. And I was like, "Man, just give me a chance. If you like me after a couple of weeks, I'll stay. If you don't, I'll move on." I mean, that's plain and simple. It's like,
and at this point, had he been playing shows out? Was he having a good run at this point? Had he just got rid of a tour manager? He already knew the deal pretty much.
Yeah, I think he got rid of like tour manager number 12 at that point.
Gotcha. It happens. Hey, Cagle's a bull from South Texas, buddy. You got to hang on.
He is,
what a singer though. I've said it on another episode when we had I guess it was Gossets, yet I was just like, man, pound for pound, Cagle's as good a singer as there ever was. Love that guy. He's a bunch of energy. I mean, just, he's had a with health and all the other run he's had with some unfortunate things, but he's still rocking too. You can go see him in concert today, and he sounds as good as the day he came out. But he's a lot of emotion. He's a lot. He's a lot. But he's great.
He is, and
all artists are that way in their own way. There's that's what I say. And even us backstage, like all of us have our quirkiness, and whatever different tendencies and stuff, and we're extreme in our own ways.
Absolutely. The thing with Kegel, I was there for about a year and a half, January of 06 until like July of 07. And that was about long enough. It was time. Me and him had just hit that brick wall where it was like, and actually Joey G, your guy, was the guy that took over for me at Kegel in 2007. So
that's so funny.
Such a small world. And it was funny when Joey knew Kegel's girlfriend or whatever at the time, and that's whatever. He came to the fan club party. I remember that in 07. And Kegel introduces me to him, and hey, it's my friend Joey, this and that. And I was kind of like looking at him like, and I just got that feeling. I was like, this is going to be the guy that is going to replace me here. Like I knew it.
You knew it then, really?
I knew it. I seriously knew it. As soon as he introduced me, this is my friend Joey. He's the tour manager. I was like, oh, hey, Joey, nice to meet you. I literally left the building, called my friend, was like, I just met the guy that's going to replace me at some point. It's going to happen. And it happened about, July 4th. I'll never forget. We came back from Korea. I knew Kegel wasn't going to get rid of me before that because I had gone to Korea 2 years earlier with Skid Row, did the same bases and was going with him. So I knew everybody. He knew that. So I knew whatever. I come back. We flew back in on like July 3rd, 2007. They call me in the office on July 4th. This is great. Nashville, July 4th, 110-degree day.
Yeah.
Like, can you come in the office? I'm like, Frank, just let me go now. Like, it's cool.
It's 4th of July. At least let me go to the lake and have some beer or something.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, it's good. I'm happy. I'm at peace with everything. Love them. Time to move on.
Exactly. It just happens. Yeah. And that was your first foyer in the country anyway. We're like, got my toes wet in country. Great guy. Yeah. It was good. Good run. Got some experience under my belt there. All good.
And actually at a couple of shows that we had done that summer, we had opened up for Jody Messina up in the Northeast somewhere. So I had met her and just small talking and, became friends or whatever over them couple shows and asked me how long I've been doing this and so on and so forth. Well, honestly, the minute, Kegel's like, man, we're going to go our separate ways. I was like, okay, cool. If you need anything, call me, no hard feelings, whatever, I'll help you out. I literally left the management office door, texted Jody, because that was the only other person I knew in country music at that point, and was like, hey, if you know anybody needing a tour manager, let me know. And before I even opened up the door, she's like, I actually need a tour manager. Call me Monday. And I was like, oh, okay. So I did. 3 weeks later, I worked for Jody for about 3 years. So, but that was my first couple into country there. And then,
and you got some good country ones to start with too. I mean, just good old country. Cause I know Jody, another great singer, big personality. Yeah. That's amazing.
Great people, great singers, the people love them, and it was funny because about 2010, Jody had about 6 weeks off, and I had heard that Chris Tate, who was Kegel's tour manager at the time, was leaving. He was going to Easton Corbin, was up and coming, and he was leaving Kegel to go to Easton Corbin. And so I called Kegel, and I'm like, hey man, I see you got 6 weeks of shows coming up. Jody's off for the next 6 weeks. Do you need some help? If you need some help, I'll help you out. And he's like, oh, yeah, let me call management. I was like, okay, cool. Whatever. I didn't think I'd hear from anybody. Next thing you know, Frank calls me. Frank is the one that called me to get me in the office to fire me, but he was also the guy that hired me back in 06. So
right.
How the circle turns. He calls me up that day and he was like, Nash. I'm like, yeah, how you doing, Frank? He goes, are you feeling all right? And I'm like, yeah, why? He goes, well, Kegel calls. Said you want to go out and help him out. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I'm off for the next 6 weeks. I'm like, does he need somebody? Well, yeah, he does. Okay, I'm your guy.
Yeah, all right, yeah.
Oh, that simple. I'm like, send me the deal memos. Let's get the ball rolling. We got shows in a week and a half. And hung up the phone a little bit later. Frank calls me back. He's like, "Do you even care what we're gonna pay you?" And I'm like, "No, like I really don't." I said, I'd rather go out on the road than sit at home for 6 weeks."
Right.
And I did. Went back out with him, and it was, I remembered he liked his Diet Pepsis and his Skull long cut straight maroon can silver top. I He'd show up on the bus and he'd be like, "Dude, we gotta hit a grocery store." I'm like, "Dude, your Dr. Pepper, your Diet Pepsi's in the back, your Skull's in the drawer." He's like, "Really? You remember that?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like,
Yeah.
"You just those little things,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I was actually back with him, and then he took some time off to record an album, and uh, Clay Walker needed somebody for a year. He was going out, needed somebody longer, but he was going out. Cagle was taking a year off, and his manager, through mutual friends, called me up and was like, "Hey, I need somebody for Clay Walker." And I was like, "Hey, I'm off," So I went out with him for about a year until Cagle got his album done, and then I went back to Cagle for about 3 years, and then one night we were at a casino doing a guitar pool type thing, and Joe Nichols was on the show, and I'd met Joe a few times over the years, but actually sat down and hung out with him that night, and he's just a really genuine good guy. And next thing you know, they called me up in 14, was like, "Hey man, Joe needs a tour manager," and I was like, "Oh, okay." Then jump ship in 2014. It'll be 11 years this year, September, that I've been with Joe now. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow. And how one thing leads to another, and it's all because you went for it. You didn't sit around and wait. You just went and took the opportunity. You didn't burn any bridges along the way. You did business the right way. That's
yeah,
what I always say, that our reputations, I mean, you can't burn bridges. You have to keep your reputation clean. That's all you have in our position.
yeah,
And it led to one to the other and good experiences along the way. And then now with Brother Joe, 11 years, and that's not as common as you would think. I mean, a lot of tour managers
no,
don't stay with someone more than multiple
yeah,
years usually, and the
yeah.
long-term ones are far and few between, really, it seems like.
And he is, I knew it all along, but he truly is a genuine person and really cares about everybody in
Yes.
his camp, his family, everybody around him. He he would do whatever to please everybody else before he pleased himself.
Yep.
And no matter what it was, COVID hit, everybody's freaking out. I mean, he did everything he could to make sure we were taken care of as best as possible. And everybody's been there a long time. I'm honored I got James. He's a great guy. He's been there 8 years now. Our drummer David Northrup's been there, I think, going on 4 years now. Brian, acoustic guitar player, has been there 20 something years, and
Right.
it's just a great camp. It's once you get there, it's people enjoy it. It's lots of travel and lots of bus stuff and just all the stuff that you deal with on the road. But it's like, when if you know that's what you're gonna get, that's it is. That's your job. You know.
Yeah. That's
So
that's the same. That's almost mirrors our camp. Same thing. It's no one really gets too worked up about anything because we kind of expect it. You're going to have that stuff, and as far as a work environment, we know there's not everybody doesn't
yeah.
have the same opportunity we have and luxury to work in an environment like that. And same thing, this will be my 13th year with Justin, which seems crazy. And
Wow.
we've got Roger and Dave been there, the bass player and guitar player, been there with him since he started, 18
Yeah.
years or whatever. And he's been on a handshake deal with his manager since he was in high school. I mean, it's crazy. And
Yeah.
holds up to the end. Another Arkansas guy. We were talking about that last week with Opie from Tracy Lawrence, and Joe. Going back to you working with when you did go into country, you worked with some stone cold country guys because you went Clay Walker's Drive Me Smooth, Clay Walker stone cold country, and then Joe Nichols. Just like I was talking with Opie last week about Tracy and a lot of legacy artists, which Joe's not necessarily a legacy artist, but a lot of legacy artists, they won't play their records on country radio like you think they would, and they still put out gold. I mean, Tracy's last EP
Yeah.
he put out, there should have been 2 number ones off that, and George Strait's put out records, and they don't give him any love. So it's just the way the world works. If Johnny Cash put one out, they wouldn't either, or Waylon or whoever, but It's a
Yeah.
travesty because artists like Joe Nichols, and I've said this publicly on social media when he puts records out, I've posted and just made sure I got my, how everybody knows where I stand on this. Joe is as good a country singer as there ever was, and still, and sounds as good, maybe even better now than he ever had. And his records, I mean, on the Crickets album, and every album he's put out, there's 4 or 5 bangers on there that should be top 10 country music songs, and it just doesn't always work out that way. They still give him love, but not like they should in comparison, in my opinion, to everything else out there. Because if you put all these people in a room and just let them sing, there's going to be a dozen of them that walk out of there and the rest just can't hang. And Joe Nichols one of those dozen. I think JM is too, you know, and Hauser is, and Jamie, but Joe is so good. It's like fine wine. He just gets better and better. And talking about being, and you know, speaking of wine, he don't even drink anymore and still sings them as good. And I've talking about people pleasing. I've seen him come on the bus with all us drunk dumbasses and sit there and laugh and hang and just try to be a part of the team, you know, wanting to be social, knowing he's like, and because now that I don't drink, and we talked about this last time, I'm like, I don't know how he sat around and listened to all of our crap while we were all buzzed up, and he's so, because I get it now, but he would, because he's just a nice guy like that. He'd just smile and hang out, have a coffee, have a tea, you know, and just hang out. And Joe is just like you said, just a sweetheart of a person, a genuine person, a good person, and has a golden throat. It, you know, just happens and looks like $1 million too. You know, the whole deal. I mean, he's a stud duck, and and I'm just a huge fan, and I've always have been a fan.
Yeah. No, and you know, that's why it's great that we're getting able to do these shows with you guys this summer. It's like your camp treats us great. I mean, you guys always have, and I mean, it's just everything is so smooth with you guys. And Joe loves Justin and Arkansas boys, and you know, getting up there, and it's cool to see them get together and do a song at the shows. And you know, Nathan, your guy Nathan that works with you, we just seen him. We just opened for Hank, Friday night, and it was great to do that. And it was cool just seeing Joe standing there on side of the stage watching Hank and just loving it. He got to go out and sing Family Tradition with him and all that. And it was
I saw the video, man. It was awesome. I showed Justin the video. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just on cloud nine, you know, it's so good. You know, he's in a really good place. And like you said, it's a shame that he doesn't get, you know, the accolades as much as he should anymore for as good as he does that traditional sounding country stuff. And, you know, he's working on some stuff here and there. So hopefully moving forward here, you'll get to,
yeah. And now that the sound's coming back around, you know, I've talked about the 12 o'clock time, the 12-hour clock, you know, music starts at its roots, and then it just by the time 11 o'clock, it's as wild. It just gets so far from what it was. And then but it has to reset when it hits that 12 o'clock. So I think we're doing a reset now, because country got about as extreme as it could. And I think now with the rise of Zach Top and the whole Americana and red dirt scene lifting from out west coming back east, and then the Yellowstone movement with everyone wanting to be friggin' cowboys now because of Yellowstone, you know.
Right.
But it's a good thing. It works in our favor, you know. It's just putting more butts in seats and works in our favor. But it is because, I mean, like, again, he's just such a good singer and just such, you know, great tunes. But the best is yet to come. I tell you something, I'm going to have to get Joe to show Justin when we're on the road, because I noticed this last time, and I was talking with Paul Hart about it, our stage manager that used to work with you guys. Yeah, great dude. I'm going to have him on here too, because he's a pilot now. He teaches he teaches people how to fly airplanes. Not only does he know how, he teaches people how, and he's a guitar tech, and he's a guitar Lutheran and everything else. But we were talking about Joe and his throat spray, because I noticed it when we were at the rave last time. We were talking, and he looks over and he hits that throat spray, and he doesn't hit it once. He hits that throat spray like an AK-47, you know, defending his honor. And as he's talking, hitting that throat spray, and I never noticed it. And then I said something to Paul. I said, I noticed Joe does this throat spray, because Justin will go through times, you know, if we go out west or it's dry or we just on a long run, you know, his throat will get a little. And we always treated it with whiskey, you know, or hot toddies or some, you know, honey lemon tea, before the show. But then usually on stage, it's been, you know, shot of
Yeah.
used to be a shot of Crown, then it was something, but then it's been like the peanut butter whiskey lately. I mean, it's not often, but when it happens, I mean, we just got to do something if he's
Yeah.
throat's bothering him. But I thought about that, so I asked Paul. I was like, "Does the throat spray Joe uses work? I mean, what is that stuff? Is it healthy? This and that?" And he goes, "Well, if you go by how much Joe uses, you think it'd have to be healthy because he goes through cases of it." But he goes, actually, yeah, it's non-toxic. There's no problem with using it. It'd actually be a great idea for Justin to use it. So I mentioned it to
Yeah.
Justin. He goes, really? He said, I might have to look into that. But Justin's so old school and so doesn't like change and routine. So it's going to be hard. But
Yeah.
I think if I can get Joe to explain to him how much it helps him, that maybe I can get Justin, because it's a quick fix. And I thought about it. I said, it only makes sense. It's just it's like when you have gargling saline solution or something, or running a neti pot or something like that, when you have just for, and we change climates, altitudes, temperatures so much, not even going from place to place, but just going from the bus to the outside to the venue. I mean, and if you got to sing every night, I could see how, I mean, it's hard for us just to talk, much less go out there and sing for a couple hours.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I noticed that, and I thought I'm going to make sure to get Joe to explain that and tell us which one the best is, because obviously he's an expert. Because when I watched him whip that bottle out and he hit that trigger finger, buddy, it was Paul and it was like a damn sprinkler outside. Hey, but he got out there and sang as good as Merle Haggard would have. You know what I mean? I mean, he does, and Joe does them old covers so good. Is that it there?
You always got to have it on you. Yep. Entertainer's secret. We got cases of it on the bus, so we'll give some to Justin there so you can try it out.
Isn't it funny like that? You say you always got to have it on you. Each artist you work for, you have to have a separate set of tools to walk them around. Because I know when I worked for Party, the things I had to keep around are different from the things I have to keep on me now with Justin. And with Wayne, different too. Isn't that neat how that was? What's a few things that Joe's going to need?
Well, with Joe, he needs the Celsius. Needs a Celsius energy drink.
Yep.
Needs that throat spray. And he likes them portable P3 protein pack things where there's like the ham and the turkey and the almonds in it or whatever.
Yeah, those are great. Great option on the road. Yep. About as healthy as you can get really on the road.
He tries to eat as healthy as can be. So, and then his other go-to would be the late night snacks that you can't keep them out. So you got to hide them, and then he'll come asking for them if he really wants them at like 2 a.m. You got them donuts? Yeah, I got them donuts,
But you don't leave them out.
No, because
that's a great idea.
Yeah. You just got to hide the snacks. So this way, if he doesn't see it, it's out of mind. But then sometimes he'll come at the last minute and be like, man, you have those snacks on you? I'm like, I got your snacks. Don't worry, But
that's not a bad option, because Justin's mentioned that lately. He's like, I've got to tell Eddie to quit buying cookies. He said, I eat them every time he gets them. But I mean, maybe we just got to not have them or something, But then we want one. So maybe that's an option. Maybe I put them in the microwave or in the freezer or somewhere where maybe just out of sight we won't think about. Because when you walk by and you look down, you're like, oh man, those cookies
And you can't just eat one Oreo. You grab one, you're grabbing 3-4 more on your way back, and then on your way back again. And before you know it, you've eaten like 12 of them.
That's what Just said the other week, because we get these little green bag ones that are like just different kinds. They're not really too frou-frou, but kind of. I don't remember if it was something. I don't remember the flavor, but he goes, man, I ate one, then I came back and ate another. He said, I've eaten this whole damn bag. He said, I got to quit. He said, we can't have these on here anymore. And I was like, I did the same thing. I got a thing from catering of these ooey gooey with all the different stuff in it. And I'm like, I thought, well, these will last us all weekend. I ate them all. We ate them all. I ate them all the first day. I'm like, I got to do better. I'm doing it. I'm messing myself up because, since I laid off the alcohol, I'm thinking, well, I got plenty of extra calories I can eat, snacks with now. I got to make up for it to get, so I don't start drinking again. But I think I've overdone it. I think I'm actually eating more calories now than I'm saving by not drinking.
Oh, absolutely. And aren't you about a year? You're sober?
September is when I put it down. So
September. Okay.
Yeah. So half a year. Getting there.
Getting up there, half a year. Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes by. So, I mean, dude, I quit 8 years ago, December of 18. I quit drinking too. And it's like, I don't miss it. I really don't. It's once you get past that stage of, even before I used to just drink to be involved in the party, oh, everybody's drinking, I'm going to have a drink. But then you realize, when you go to a bar and you order a double crown, they give you your little cup and it's like barely any booze. And you realize when you make your 16-ounce solo cup and you fill it 3/4 of the way full with Crown, put some ice in it, and then splash it with the Coke, that's what you get used to. And then it's like you go to a bar and you got to drink, 8 or 10 doubles before you even start to feel how you feel off one of your drinks. Then it's like, oh man, that's a problem. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
just
and I've told people that recently, it's like I've never had a job outside of the music business. I went from high school, which we were kind of rowdy in high school, to college, which was full blown fraternity life, into the road. So I've
yeah.
always been, it's not only has it been acceptable, but it's almost been encouraged and like praised that if you can drink a lot and handle your business, that's like a bonus badge of honor, you know?
Right.
And so that's all I've ever done. I've never had a job where I didn't, was not, it's open bars. And like you said, you're not making a double, you're making a quadruple at best every time because you got stacks of liquor and every party you go to. So open bar, and you play at bars, and where you play is a social setting and where we work. So
And you get
that's just,
free drinks
and you
and
get free drinks, and that
yeah.
when you're especially on your way up, that's their thing. Well, we'll feed you and drink you, and pay you whatever, half the door or whatever.
Right.
And it's and I explained is I think I just did everything there was to do with drinking. I mean, it was harder to keep doing it than it wasn't. It just what else can be done? Been there, done that. I mean, I just didn't think randomly one night I'm gonna go out and have some drinks and it's going to be the most fun I've ever had drinking. I think I've already probably done that. It's just done
Right.
all it's could do. And now it's a whole new world not drinking, because at first, you're thinking, oh, am I going to hear music the same and deal with this the same? But actually, it's a whole new world. If you've been that way for so long, it's like I'm hearing stuff for the first time,
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean,
and
it
memories and everything else.
everything. You don't have to, get them phone calls about, remember what you did last night?
Yeah.
No.
Or
What'd I
walk,
do?
yeah, or you get up and get off the bus, and a couple crew people walk by and smile at you. How you feeling today? And it's like, I don't know, fine. Why?
Yeah.
It's
Why?
like what I
What I
do.
do? What
Yeah,
I say?
yeah, yeah. But it's easy when you're doing that, and then you think about like I was saying earlier, the calorical intake. Because it seems absurd, and unless you do it for a living, it is. Unless you're in a world that it condones it in the way we have.
Yeah.
That if you drink, say, it's not unheard of, 10 shots, 10 drinks, a couple of these, a couple of that. I mean, you're talking about 24 drinks. You're not, and most people are like, no way. And it's like, yeah, that's not even going hard. That's just in a
Yeah.
afternoon through a night to load out to getting on the bus to going to bed. Yeah, totally doable. Probably 6 shots during the show, couple of drinks. I mean, it's just, yeah. Then afterwards, have a few more. That was totally plausible. And then throw on top of it, which I quit cigarettes a good while back. I think I was 18. I quit those. But then you throw on cigarettes, and when we're younger, everything else you like to party on and all that fun stuff. So it's just like, it's just running hard, man. You're running full
Yeah.
speed, and it's like almost like road years are like dog years, in a way. And if you don't figure out a way to maintain and get some control over the situation, it's just not it's the outcome's inevitable that it's not going to work
Yeah.
out. People
Yeah.
use the Keith Richards thing. Well, Keith Richards partied, and he's still partying now. I'm like, yeah, by himself. All his buddies are gone. He's the only one. It's You
Right.
know what I mean? He got struck by lightning, basically. I mean, all his friends are not there. It doesn't happen to anyone but him. It's just not sustainable. Most all
Yeah.
rockers, country legends, all that, at some point get sober, whether they do on their own or whether they were told to. And that was part of my thing. I wanted to do it on my own terms. I didn't want to do it because I got in trouble. I didn't want to do it because my body was shutting down. And when I'm
Yeah.
80, good Lord willing that I make it there, and I want to have a glass of wine or a fifth of whiskey, I want to be able to and not know and did everything to where I could and not just get told, well, you can't have any more ever again because of
Yeah.
you've done too much damage. And I thought, well, I've done enough damage. Let me reel that back in and try to take care of it now. And I got to get
Yeah.
on the other. But I commend Brother Joe for that because, like you said, he doesn't, and he eats well and stays in the gym and works on his
Yeah.
vocals. And, I mean, that's why he's still tip-top. I always say Justin doesn't have to work out. With his 4 kids, he and his wife, that's how they stay in shape. If you had to chase them 4 tornadoes around, that's all the workouts you need.
Yeah, I got one, he's 7 now. And that was another reason why I quit drinking too back in 18. My son was born in March of 18. So it was one of those things like time to become a dad, and a husband and a dad and just, the roads work, as much, my wife laughs at me. She's like, "Oh, you call it work?" And I'm like, she's like, you play bars and you do this and you do that. And, she works, she's a nurse. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
right.
when she goes to work, she's really working and 12 hours of nonstop headaches. And
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I had a rough day at work today. And she's like, oh, what'd you do? Not get to take a nap for an hour in the afternoon? I'm like, thanks, honey. See how it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, catering sucked, you know.
Yeah, it was rough. But yeah, I get it with that 7-year old. And he is nonstop. We come home last night from his soccer game. He's like, Dad, you want to play football in the front yard? And I'm like, I really want to go watch the basketball game, but let's play some football. I sit
Yeah.
out there with him for 45 minutes playing catch because then I think back to my dad. My dad was always that guy with me growing up, no matter what, always throwing the football, throwing the baseball in the backyard. He worked third shift and all that, but he always made time to, play with me and do things in sports, wanted me to be a pitcher and all that stuff. So now that my son is into soccer and football, and it's just, it's just great when I sit there and play catch with them. I just sit, I was up at my parents' house a couple weeks ago with my son in the backyard playing catch. And I just flashed back to being, my 10-year-old self throwing that ball to my dad. And I was just like, how surreal is this so many years later that I'm in the same backyard that I grew up in playing catch with my son now, who's about the age that I was at that point. So it's just
Wow.
crazy how the world just goes around. And my dad got sick. He's 80. He lived to be 86, passed away about a year and a half ago. But just taking care of him at the end, and Jackson seeing that and realizing, you know, Dad, when you get old like that, am I going to take care of you? And I'm like, well, hope so,
Yeah.
because it's the circle of life. And teaching a 7-year-old asking those questions like, when Grandpa's getting old, he's getting sick. It's like, yeah, it happens, buddy. And just
Yeah.
life does that to you.
Yeah, well, then you have to take the lessons you learned from your dad and try to implement them in your style to
Yeah,
keep the train going, man. I know I don't have children of my own. I've got nephews and nieces and a bunch of godchildren. I don't know why anyone would entrust me, but thankfully they do. I'm honored. But I feel the same way. It's like you got to try to be a good example. And I didn't think about it during the moment, but since putting it down, I'm thinking, yeah, this is going to help me be a better example
yeah.
for
And
everyone that sees me coming up and they don't just associate me with that.
yeah, and my dad for many years, my dad liked to drink.
Yeah.
He would say he was an alcoholic. He wasn't diagnosed, but he would like to drink too much, and
Yep.
runs in the
Same.
family and runs in. So
Same.
he would
Yeah.
always tell me like, son, you gotta watch. It's gonna sneak up on you. And there's some trouble I got into here and there drinking, and he'd be like, I told you, son, like you gotta stop. So
Yep.
I'm
And
just
that's
glad
kind
I
of
was
my
able to.
dad. Same thing, and he did that. He got told, you can't drink anymore, can't smoke, can't drink, can't got to cut out this, cut out that, because of going a little too hard, over the years with the drinking. And he would say that back in the day too. You got to be careful, and you don't want to end up like me. All that. That was a big motivator there to just
Yeah,
power through no matter what, and take care of myself along the way. I will say that the whole time I was drinking, I made sure to sleep. I ate. I wasn't one of those just drunks and didn't eat. I tried to. I went to the gym. I tried to take care of myself to count, but I had to counterbalance it somehow and not look pitiful. And age too fast. Still wanted to look okay. And look all right in my outfit on stage. So. But it's a whole new world now. And talking about having children now, how fun is that? You being in the position that you are, with having a long tenure in the music business, now being able to take your son and new wife who are new to that world, and it's a whole new experience for them. And you're in like Flynn. You get to introduce them to all the
yeah.
rock stars and all the country legends. And I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
they get that's what I say to all my godchildren, nephews, and nieces, and all that. I'm like, man, if any of y'all would get into country, you will have the hookup, a great hookup. If not, though, I mean, I can help some, but if you're in the country, I am the best uncle you will ever have.
yeah. No, absolutely. just be my 25th year as a tour manager, and when I sit back and think about how I started out, going out for free. What? I can go on the road? Okay, let's do it. I made a career out of it. 25 years later, my dad used to always say, "Man, I'm proud of you." You know, I see all these, military people and all that stuff that travel and they get stationed all over the world. He said, "But man, they're fighting for our country and they're putting their life on the line So you can go do what you do. And he's like, you graduated high school, you went out on the road. And I figured when I came home that day and told him, hey, Dad, I'm going on the road with Slaughter. He's like, what? Why don't you go get a job?
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on, Dad, it'll be fun. I'm going to do this for the summer, then I'll get a job. He's like, okay. And, years later, I took my dad. My dad had never been to Vegas. And when I was with Kegel, he happened to be down in Nashville visiting me. And we had a show in Oklahoma, and then we were going out to Vegas. And I called Kegel up. I said, hey, man, can my dad come with us? Like, he's never been on a bus, never been past St. Louis. Kegel's like, yeah, absolutely. So dad got on the bus with us and went to Oklahoma and went to Vegas with us. This was back in like 2013. And, just to walk up and down the strip and get kicked out of a casino, they cut us off. They quit serving me and my 70-year-old dad. They're like, you
Love
two
it.
done drinking. Next day, my dad was like, son, what happened? I was like, I don't know, Dad, but we got kicked out of the casino. Like, just crazy, So like stories like that it's just like you never wouldn't have been possible if I didn't have great bosses. Kegel was great. Jody was great. Clay was great. Joe is amazing. I can't say enough good things about him. But I mean, I've been fortunate that every artist that I've worked for, Alison Krauss, I was fortunate enough, got to go to the Grammys with her back in like '08 when she was doing the Robert Plant stuff. And, John Waite, who I was friends with, called me up and was like, hey, Alison needs a road manager. Are you available next weekend? I'm like, oh, yeah. Why? What she got? She's going to the Grammys. I was like, oh, all right. Yeah. Sign me up. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll go do it. That was 2008. And, Allison's still a friend. Came over to the house right after Jackson was born. And we just went and seen her a couple weeks ago. But everybody in that country world is just, Garth Brooks. It's like, Jackson's met Garth and he's just so genuine. And it don't matter how many years go by in between seeing him, he'll walk up to you and be like, hey, Mike Nash. It's like, how does Garth Brooks remember who I am? It's just
Yeah.
kind of cool. So,
Yeah, that's amazing. It really is. And country music is that way. Everybody's normally very inviting, very family oriented, and makes it a
yeah.
really enjoyable career,
Yeah.
even though it's got its struggles. And like I say, some days are better than others. Everybody thinks we
Yeah.
have the greatest job on earth, and it is great, but some days are better than others.
Some days are better than others. And, it's funny with Jackson too. He calls Joe Nichols his best friend. He'll go to school and tell everybody at school, yeah, Joe Nichols is my best friend. And,
Oh,
Joe's brought him up on stage to sing. Sunny in 75 is his favorite song. So Joe's brought him up on stage a couple times to sing with him. And he rode the bus with us one weekend. I mean, just memories like that it's
yeah.
like, it's cool to be able to do that with my child and have a
And not
boss
every
that's,
Yeah, and not every camp would be that way. Not every
no,
genre, not every camp would be that way.
yeah, and, yeah, and it's good. Joe's got three daughters. Two of them are teenage, playing softball. So he's,
Hmm.
coaching the softball when he's home, teaching. His one daughter's really good at pitching, and it's great to hear him tell him stories. When he's home. Like last night, I called him. I was like, "Hey, can you talk?" He's like, "Oh, I'm watching, at the game." I was like, "All right, call me after." So it's like it's
Yeah,
cool to see him teaching his kids and just being around and watching them grow up. You
yeah.
know.
Same, yeah, same with Justin. I'll go get on the bus and I'm like, yeah, how was everything this week? Oh, well, Ella played in regionals and as a ninth grader went 3 for 4 and, got a hit in the, RBI when she needed one and Klein won their game and South and them are doing, I mean, he just loves it. He's eat up with it,
Yeah.
um, and it, it's, there's a lot worse things they could be involved
Yeah.
in than their children's lives, and it's awesome to see them do that, and it keeps everything in perspective. I talked to Justin yesterday, mentioning that he said, well, I just getting home. I had to go about an hour from home. I totally forgot this girl that plays on Ella's softball team. Her grandmother asked me would I come speak at her elementary school, and I told her I would. I woke up this morning to a text. I didn't realize it was today. So I've been down there all afternoon or this morning talking to third, fourth, and fifth graders at career day at some
Oh
small
wow.
school in Arkansas, and he said, I told the lady beforehand, I'm used to singing in front of a lot of people, but I don't normally speak. I don't know what I'm going to say, And so, but he talked to him and he said the as you can imagine, the field of questions from third, fourth, and fifth graders was all over the place.
Yeah.
Do you know this one? Do you know that one? Do you know Lady Wilson? Do you know this one? What's your song? What's your song? What song do you sing? That kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But it's cute. But
Kids are,
that's the realness. They'll go do that kind of stuff, and be normal people. And that's why Justin said he moved back to Arkansas. He said, I just want to be normal. My kids to grow up normal. I just want everything to be normal. And
yeah.
I feel like Joe's the same way, just a normal dude. I love catching up with him. I look forward to doing these shows. Well, we might as well tell everybody, and I want to have you back on during the tour at some point. We'll do a tour recap once it's over or something like that. But
I was going to say too, we should, we're sitting here talking to you, man, you got to do one where you get Gossett, Chris Tate,
yes.
Get all of us that.
This show so might have to. This show might. I might have to change the name of the show to 6 Degrees of Separation from Chris Cagle. Yes. Oh well, the first show I think we're doing is June 5th in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Yeah.
Then we've got June 7th in Louisville, Kentucky. We've got June 19th, Waite Park, Minnesota. June 20th, Mankato, Minnesota. June 21st, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. June 27th, Chesterfield, Missouri. June 28th, La Vista, Nebraska.
I think that's it.
Is that it for that? I thought there were some other ones.
There were some other ones that were pending, but they didn't work out.
Well, y'all, if you're in any of those areas, make sure you come, and you can go to joenichols.com and justinmooremusic.com and check all those out and get tickets and meet and greets and all that kind of fun stuff. But y'all come see us at a show. I'm hoping they add more dates. We talked about we did a few last year. Hopefully it'll go well, and we'll do many more. Because Justin and I are the same way. We just love you guys and Joe as an artist and y'all as a camp. It's just it's always a good time. And I think as a fan, if I'm a fan perspective coming to these shows, I'm like, man, this is a good night of music. There's a lot of big songs and a lot of good country music in these. And I don't know, and the openers usually, other thing too, I tell people get there for the opener because in 2020, Lainey Wilson was our opener playing acoustic and she's doing pretty good for herself. And when I started with Justin in 2013, I first met Justin. We were the opening act for him, and I was with John Party. He's doing pretty good for himself. So make sure you get there to see the opening act.
Yeah.
You never know.
Absolutely.
Hey, I've got a few things. Oh, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
No, go ahead, buddy. No, you're good. I was just saying it's a good time. All of Joe's hits, and then Justin for an hour and a half. I mean, it's 2.5 hours of good music.
Yeah, so, and they're going and good musicianship too. Not a bunch of click track crazy fake stuff.
You got Stefan over there too.
Yeah, and a bunch of good music and Stefan,
And Stefan.
Oh, that poor guy. I'm gonna have him on and do we're gonna talk immigration one day because buddy, he has a tough time. Being a Canadian citizen is rough on a brother these days.
I bet.
And he has been paying taxes in America for almost 2 decades, owns a house, never gotten an ounce of trouble, and is financially strapped due to the situation. And it's incredible. Working on some things to try to help him out, but it's really a lot different than people think. And I'm not going to go on a big immigration thing, but it's not as simple as we thought it was in the movies where you show up, you say the Pledge of Allegiance, and you take a little test. I can tell you that, and even for good people, it is friggin' tough. I mean, he spent $50,000, I think, in the past 15 years to live here, and still can't get in. Owns a house, pays taxes. Didn't take the PPP, didn't take any government money when COVID happened, just because he didn't want everybody to think he wanted something for free.
Wow.
Still getting hustled. Yeah. That's the left-handed. That's the funny-looking guitar player on stage with Justin that plays his guitar backwards. He was on the road with Mike and a couple outfits. So
and his first gig was with Clay Walker.
Yeah,
and I was tour managing Clay when he was there, and I remember 21-year-old Stefan like, I'm just happy to be here.
I love America. I love Jet. I love America. I love music. I love guitar.
Oh man, it's just seeing him back then, how young he was and how green. So funny. Everybody's green when you first get on the road, but we gave him a green belt. I remember Clay was like, get him a green belt. And he's like, what's this for? It's like, oh, because you're green. Like, you've earned your green belt. You did a couple shows and here you go. And just seeing what he's turned into, amazing. He was amazing back then, but just how much he's grown in the last 13 years that I've known him. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, and historian general grew up in Quebec, Canada, where French speaking part of Canada, way up in the east, and it was in the whole scene was the rock scene up there, and he was the only guy who liked like the Bakersfield sound and stuff, and just loved country records. And he's like, I was just by myself. I just love the country records no one else liked, but I love, you know.
Yep. And he made a career out of it. That's great.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. Well, I got a few things we do with every guest that I think are fun to close the show out. And we'll do one here. Well, first off, I know what's your birthday? I know you said 74. What's month and day?
July 11th.
July 11th. All right. And the next thing I do while I'm pulling this up is I do a thing called big name in your phone. Of all the phone numbers you've accumulated over the years, either it can be the one you think is the biggest star of the bunch, or just someone to you personally you're like, I never would have thought as a kid growing up that now I have this number and this is the one that gets me right here.
Man, probably. I mean, at one point I had John Bon Jovi's. I don't think it's still his. That was many years ago. But probably at the moment, Chad Kroeger from Nickelback.
Yeah.
He's a good dude.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say he's down to earth, just one of the nicest guys. You would think, even Bon Jovi is like, you would think, oh, Bon Jovi's huge, nice down to earth guy. Just like you and me, and
Yep.
everybody I've come across is been really nice. But yeah, Chad really was a fan of Joe Nichols years ago. We hung out with him a few times and all that stuff. And Joe, Nickelback used to do Tequila Makes Your Clothes Fall Off at times. They would cover it in their show, and Joe would cover Rockstar. So it's kind of funny
that is cool.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed that documentary they had out on them last year. I thought that was really eye-opening for a lot of people who weren't that familiar with the band, as I was not. I knew their music, but I didn't know their whole backstory like that. But that was pretty wild. Well, I thought you were going to say Dave Snake Sabo.
But could have.
Because hey, I can tell you this: I can remember the first time I was ever at a label party and got to meet Doc and Snake, and I was with John Party and Terry Lee Palmer, our guitar player, and still with John, and Lee Francis still with John, and I think Howie, our drummer at the time, and we were at this event in Nashville. For the record label. It was right when John got signed. He didn't have a manager at the time. We didn't know anybody there, but it was everybody from Capitol Records. It was like a Christmas party. Everybody from everybody on the label came and sang 2 or 3 songs acoustic at this exclusive, like no and ones, just people who worked for the label and, the management or the artist or whatever. And I saw Doc McGee because I knew who he was from, just MTV and stuff. You just knew I knew who Doc McGee was. I was like, holy crap! I think he was there with Darius at the time, actually. And excuse me. And Terry said, "I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I'll be back." So when Terry comes back, he goes, "Dude, I swear I think I just saw Dave Snake Sabo over there by the bar." And I looked, and I was like, that sure looks like him. So we were so starstruck that we were like, of all the people there, we were like, dude, that's Snake Sabo from Skid Row. We've got to go say hello. And we go over there and we're like, we go catch him on the smoking deck because I'm still smoking then too. I'm like, here, Terry, take a cigarette. We're going to go smoke. That's how we'll talk to him. So we go out there, we meet Snake, and I got Snake's number that day. He couldn't have been cooler. He was kind of like, you want to talk to me? I'm like, yeah, man, you kidding me? And Terry's like, dude, I've been a fan since I was like 15, whatever. And it was just one of those things. But I always think about those connections, the rock world, and that being one, and you in your early career, and Snake, and then the Doc thing, and then Melanie ended up being John's manager who worked for Doc, for Darius, and then the tie in there again, Justin doing a lot of shows with Darius when he was on his way up, and Doc being around and talking to Justin, and then going back to who else does Doc manager? Chris Cagle. It all goes back to Cagle.
Yeah. No, and Doc has been one of those guys, like I said, since 2000. I've known him, and he's just one of the genuine guys too. It's like every holiday I hear from him, and I could pick up my phone and call him, and he'd pick up every time I call him or call me back. It's just, he's one of those always, when Kiss was on their 20th farewell tour, you just call him up, and be like, hey man, I want to bring the kid. All right, what do you need? Tell me what you need. No,
Yep.
never no, never, oh, can't do that. It's always
Right.
whatever you need. And
And is legit
just,
top, at least top 10 managers of all time, or
oh
people
yeah,
involved in music all time, probably making things
yeah.
happen.
And it's so funny. We do this. We're in the business. Know all these people. Hung out with all these people. But like then you meet people like my buddy Dave in Arizona. He's like, dude, you know Doc McGee? Like, do you really know Doc McGee? I was like, yeah. He's like, dude, he's like world famous manager. It's just so cool. And
Yeah.
we take it for granted. We
Yes.
take it for granted when we know these people and can go talk to these people. And it's just we're very fortunate that we get to do. We bust our ass. We work hard and to make our artists you know be on top of their game and all that stuff. But it's just like you're right about the perks that we get and the people that we get to meet and hang out with and associate with. It's we are very fortunate. We're not out there breaking concrete on a 110-degree day or roofing a house and anything like that. Like I said, I always go back to thinking of my dad saying, "Man, you made a career out of this, and you've got to tour the world, go to Europe, Korea, Hawaii, and you get paid to do it."
Yeah.
Like, how great is that? Like,
Yeah.
how great the profession that we're in, that
Yeah.
we get to go put smiles on people's faces, you know, behind the curtain, all around, do whatever, and we get paid to do it. That's
Yeah.
the best part,
Yeah, and
you
it's
know.
enough rope to hang yourself, is what I always say too, out there on the road,
Yeah,
because you can ruin it too. Because there's, let's be all honest, in most, unless you're at a certain level, and there's very few that, I mean, where you're getting, there's no 401k attached to it, there's no insurance attached to it, there's no, this is just, if something goes down and the artist quits, I mean, you just got to look for another gig. I mean, it's just that way.
yeah,
It is that business, but you can make some money, and you can cash, and then you can tie that into other things. The networking, if you
yeah,
network properly and tie it into other things, you can always have a job because of the job you did before, kind of deal. And that's
yeah,
what you have to, and then the off time. And, a lot of us take advantage of the off time. I run several small businesses and do things on the side. I know even the highest level, I was talking to Gossett and Tate and them. I mean, everybody's got a side something that goes from this, because we have off time and we're all go-getters. We're not just going to sit around,
yeah,
just like you sitting around. You could have sat around and not went out with Kegel,
other
that
people.
run
Yeah,
when Joe D was going to take a break, but you were like, no, I'm going to go work and make some money and stay busy and eat my catering and not spend my money. It's cheaper to be on the
yeah,
road than at home, so I'm just going to go be a go-getter. And it's funny, that same theme goes with every tour manager I've talked to so far on this
yeah.
podcast journey so far. Everybody is a go-getter and just didn't take no for an answer. Didn't matter what the deal was. We'll just do the job. We'll figure it out later.
Yeah, and I was watching that podcast you did with Low Cash's tour manager guy,
Yeah,
John. Is it Johnny, right?
yeah,
And
John Lazard. Yeah,
John, yeah. And like he was saying, with Joe, I took on merchandise. I handle merch now. I'm the merch
yep,
manager with him. I took over day to day with him too. So I do that a lot of the downtime when I'm home is dealing with day to day stuff with him. But it's just like, I used to be that guy with Kegel tuning the guitar and doing guitar changes. And, it's like he was saying, you do all those things and you make it that you're indispensable.
yep.
You do 4, 5, 6 jobs. And if it ever does come down, people are like, man, we ever got rid of him, we got to hire 4 guys to do everything that one guy was doing.
Yeah, and if you ever
So
have to take a weekend off and you come back and everybody's like, "Boy, we sure missed you. We got through it, but it ain't the same without you." You're like, "Yes, at
yeah,
least they still love me."
exactly.
Because
How do
it
you
can be
do all
done.
that?
Yeah, right. Because it can be
It's
done.
yeah.
Well, this is the so I do another thing here. It's birthday number one. On the
Oh
day
yeah.
you were born, the number one song in country music, the day you were born. And all these are so ironic because of the tie-ins, and there's so many tie-ins. This one actually has a tie-in to your rock world too. And it's going to be a roundabout way, but you're going to love it, I think. So July 11th, 1974, your dad, who we were just talking about, he put the cold beer down just long enough to get over there and help your mama get you birthed into this world. Y'all are on the way home. He's got them iced down in the back. Y'all are heading back to La Casa de Nash to welcome this swaddled up beautiful little blonde-headed baby boy Michael to the world. And as they turn on the radio and the announcer goes, the number one song in country music this week is, who do you think it was?
Man,
Female artist, 74. Country, but more than just country, and was
hmm.
managed at one point by one of the in the same air with Doc McGee, if not above the chain of Doc McGee as a manager at one point?
Man, I honestly don't know.
This is going to be a strange tie-in. Okay, the song is "He Thinks I Still Care," and the artist is Anne Murray.
Whoa, Anne Murray.
Anne Murray, and you know, normally it would be a stone cold country person on there, but since you're from the rock world, of course it has to be Anne Murray, who blends genres. She was you know, she was all over. She was mainstream. She was country, but the tie-in there was her manager at one point, who took on the role after managing Alice Cooper on a handshake for years and years, just to prove that he could work in other genres, was the Supermensch. Shep Gordon was her manager at one point.
Wow.
And Shep took her from what she was doing on to another level where she was international megastar when Shep took over her career.
Wow. Look at that. Man. Stuff you learn. Whew.
I know, right? And then for people out there, go watch the movie Supermensch, but we're talking about Shep Gordon, who is one of the most legendary managers of all time. And his story is as crazy as anything you're ever going to hear. Ends up breaking up, I thought was a would-be sexual assault between, later finding out, Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin. Next thing I know, he's on a handshake deal with Alice Cooper and his manager, and he's the biggest manager of all time. But Shep Gordon was actually Anne Murray's manager because he wanted to try his hand to think, because they pigeonholed him as a rock guy, and he's like, well, I can do whatever. So he took Anne Murray's career and took it up another level during that time.
Oh, look at that.
I know, strange stuff.
The strange stuff, and you know, when it made me think about back in the early 2000s, I did a little run with a ska band, Fu Manchu, you know, California surfer band, and the guy that was actually tour managing them at the time we went over to Europe was Richard Cole, who was Led Zeppelin's guy for many years. So to sit back and just hear these, you know, Led Zeppelin stories out of Richard's mouth was pretty cool, you know. And I was sitting there just thinking about my life and this whole business of people I've been around and stories I've heard. It's just, you know, crazy. And when I went to the Grammys that night with Allison and Robert Plant, the after party, sat at a table with Priscilla Presley, Lisa Marie Presley, Robert Plant, Alison Krauss, and one of Elvis's right-hand man that were there with Priscilla. But like to sit at this round table and hear Priscilla and Robert telling Elvis stories like firsthand, I'm just like, all right, like this, wow. Like just, what am I doing here? Like, what am I doing?
What am I doing here? Yeah, what am I doing? How did I end up here?
How did I end up here with Priscilla Presley and Lisa Marie Presley and Robert Plant? Like, it's Robert Plant. Still blows my mind. Then we get back in the car to go back to the hotel, and Allison they had won like five or six Grammys that night, and she had become the all-time female leading Grammy winner after that Grammy thing. And I said that to her, I'm like, Allison, you realize you're the all-time leading female Grammy winner? She's like, yeah, that's what they say. You know, she's just so down to earth and just not like, yeah, that's me. You know, she's one of a kind. She truly is. I'm very blessed with all the stuff that I've got to sit in on and be a part of, and it just blows my mind. I should write a book sometime. I sit back and I forget about things, and people are like, oh, remember that time you did that? And I'm like, oh my God.
Well, that's why we're doing this podcast. We've got to jog our memories, because I'm in the same boat. All of us need a book. Everybody's got an interesting story. It's just got to happen. Froze up, but hopefully we're coming back. Frozen in Time with Mike Nash. It only happened twice today, so that's good. Hey, hey. Hey, there you are.
That's all good. My internet. I watched it go away. I was like, oh man, there goes it's gone again. Oh,
well, it only did it. It only did it twice today, so that's not bad at all. That's not bad at all. No. But yeah, it really is. And you think about it, because we do have to save some of these, and there will be books, and that's why I'm doing the podcast, because we need everybody in our position and everybody backstage has a story that's just as interesting and as intriguing as the artists themselves. And there's just more of us, and they need to be told as well. Maybe they're not as big a name, but the stories themselves are interesting. You know, with everybody watching Dateline on People No One Ever Know, just small town people and stuff, I'm like, well, I think people would find this interesting too. And we all do need to write the book. And I think going back to, the laying off the booze thing, I think my memories are a lot better since I put that down, and things are coming back. Yeah. And I feel like COVID fog finally lifted and all that stuff. So, and us telling these, it jogs your memory, and if you don't tell them, you don't remember it. But and they flood back, and it's just good stuff. And then good memories, a lot of good memories. That's the good thing too. You tend to forget about some of the down bad times, and now when you look back after a certain period of time, the good stands up taller.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And once again about our profession and things that we can. My buddy Matt here in Columbus is he comes out and helps us out on the road and sells merch, does whatever. And it's so, I look back and he reminds me of me, 24 years ago when I'll help you guys load in. I'll help you do this. I wanted to be a part of it. And here he comes out, 10 years now. I realize he's been around for 10 years helping, and we take him out on the road to help us with merch and stuff like that too. But it's just cool to be able to give somebody else that opportunity, to help to have them live out their dreams. It's
absolutely
cool.
Yeah, it really is. Well, the last thing I got on here for today is Mount Rushmore of music. And you being a rocker, I'm sure it won't be 4 country singers on this list, but who would be Mike Nash's Mount Rushmore of music? I think Bon Jovi's got to be on there, wasn't it?
Yeah, Bon Jovi.
And you know what's funny about that? When you said, I didn't mention it earlier, but the first tape that I ever got on my own to listen to was Bon Jovi, New Jersey.
Nice.
Christmas of '86. I think it was New Jersey. It was Christmas of '86. We went to DC for Christmas at my aunt's, and I got a cassette player, and the first tape I got was Bon Jovi. And
was it Slippery When Wet?
It might have been Slippery When Wet.
I was just saying New Jersey would have came out in like '89.
Okay,
That's
so it was before that then. Yeah, I want to say
that would have been my first cassette tapes that I got was that Christmas of '86 as well, and it was Slippery When Wet and Night Songs by Cinderella.
Wow.
Because that was my first concert in March of '87 was Cinderella and Bon Jovi.
Wow.
So the fact that was my first concert, and then fast forward so many years later and friends with the Cinderella guys, friends with the Bon Jovi guys, it's just crazy to sit back and think about.
It really is. And then the first tape we both ever had was Bon Jovi. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Mount Rushmore of things. Well, Bon Jovi would have to be one of them for sure. Led Zeppelin. Yeah, like Led Zeppelin.
I mean, big a rock band as there ever was. What a sound.
Yeah.
They changed. I mean, when I can remember first really getting into them and being like, man, this is the peak. This is the Mecca.
Yeah. And I have to say, after, the last 15, I mean, Merle Haggard would have to be up there once I got into the Merle, and probably Keith Whitley. That would be my 4.
Wow. Y'all don't listen to any Merle Haggard on Joe Nichols' bus, do you?
No. I try to get him to do it, but he just won't do it. I don't think you can go from further from the spectrums there with Keith Whitley to Bon Jovi to Led Zeppelin to Merle Haggard.
Yeah, right. I love it. And Joe, I mean, like we were saying earlier, Joe does those songs, but I've heard Joe do some of those rock songs too, and the Sir Mix-a-Lot and everything else. Joe just does everything good, Oh, it's so good. Yeah. Well,
I'd probably have to put Elvis on there. The more that I think about it, I'd probably have to get Elvis on there. Growing up, my parents loved Elvis. I still listen to Elvis to this day. I probably have to put him up there too.
I love Elvis too. So we're gonna bump Keith Whitley and put Elvis up.
Oof.
I know it gets tough.
It's tough. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do it.
There we go.
I'm gonna have to put Elvis on there.
I mean, he was the king.
He was the king.
No doubt, and it has to be a personal Mount Rushmore because there's not enough spots. There's way too many great artists, so it really has to be a personal thing. Well,
Yeah.
I know we've got shows coming up here in a few weeks. We need to get on the phone anyway. We need to get some work stuff done. We need to make sure we get a condensed hospitality list over to them, or if we're going to try to do a buyout and
Yeah.
get some catering numbers and all that stuff together so we can get the
Yeah.
I've talked to a few of them. I
There you
know
go.
Jeff and the production team's been in contact, so they're working through all
Yeah.
that, and should be pretty easy. It's good buildings, a lot of
Yeah.
nice venues we're playing, so that's good.
Yeah. Should be a
In
good
major
time. So,
major cities where there are actually facilities and hotels and things. Sometimes we get
yeah.
you'll see a name on the you'll see a contract come through on the calendar, and you're like, where is that? You look it up and you're like, oh boy, this is going to be fun. The closest
Yep.
hotel is 45 miles away. Okay.
I got a few of those this year. Like, where? All right.
All right, here we go.
Looking forward to it, buddy. Well,
Yes,
thanks for
well,
having
thank
me.
you.
I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Mike Nash. Man, y'all go check Brother Mike out on stuff. Y'all go see Joe Nichols at a show. Y'all come see Justin and Joe together at a show. We've got some going on this year, and hopefully we'll book some more. But again, my guest today, my brother Mike Nash, thank you so much for coming on, buddy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care, buddy. Bye.
Well, that was Mike Nash, tour manager for Joe Nichols. How much fun was that, everybody? What some great stories. There's you a little dive into the rock world. I know we said we would cover all genres, so we're trying to start spreading out a little bit, and I thought Mike Nash would be a great rock addition to this podcast because of those ties. Came from the rock world, end up in country, and still connects with it in so many ways. And like I told him, I don't know if it made it air or not, but off camera, that I'm just trying to introduce everybody to the Players. This is the movie of country music over the past, 2 decades and hopefully a few more decades. And if this movie plays out and everybody wants to watch, I want to make sure everybody knows who the characters and players are. So all these guys and gals we have on are integral to the world of country music and touring. And now you're going to know who they are. You're going to be able to put some stories and some names and faces with the stories. And I hope everybody enjoys it, and as much as I do, getting to catch up with these fine people that I get to share a career with and a genre and a brother and sisterhood with all these guys and gals out on the road. Got to do a little business. Thank y'all for liking. Please go like, rate, subscribe, hit the notification button, any of that you can on any platform. We're on Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube. Go to jrthehandler.com. You can find links to everything there. We've got a merch page up, got brand new JR the Handler show t-shirts, got a couple different colors, got the rock and roll black and dark gray. Y'all check those out. Come see us again next week here on the JR the Handler show. We're going to drop episodes every week. Got some great guests lined up to talk with and have conversations with over the next couple of weeks. I hope everyone will tune in. The best way you can help the show is to share the show. If you like it, share it with someone you think also may like the show. But hit the like, rate, and subscribe if you have time. We appreciate that. I'm going to try to get on out of here today. I'm still using the 424 handler line. Y'all can leave me some voicemails. I know there's a few on there I need to check. I'll try to get to those next week. But please leave some voicemails, text messages, whatever you want. 424 handler, that's the call-in line. Leave us a message. If you have any questions or comments for the show, you can go to @JRTheHandler on Instagram and Twitter or X and leave a comment on the show. Check out the reels we're putting around. Go to YouTube, JR the Handler on YouTube, and comment there as well. And if it's a question for the show, we'll try to read it on here or get the answer for you. And if it's just a comment, we'll take it to heart or we'll read it, whatever we need to do. But I'm going to get on out of here today, but I'm going to leave you with this. This is another section from Let's All Make the Day Count, the Everyday Wisdom of Charlie Daniels. Today, number 45, our attitude, making the most of your time because the days are evil. Ephesians 5:16. Over the years, I have come to the conclusion that much of the outcomes of our lives are controlled by our attitudes. The half full or half empty glass, the acceptance of responsibility for our own well-being, willingness to blame our problems on outside influences. I know, of course, things will happen that are beyond our control, but so much of our lives are within our own ability to affect. What we do with our God-given talent, how we face the problems we are confronted with, and how we choose to view each day is up to us. It's just another 24-hour period. Or is it another opportunity, another chance to move forward, a reason to rejoice? Do we allow ourselves to start thinking that no matter what we do, no matter how hard we try, things will never get any better, and we will might as well save our efforts? Nothing could be further from the truth. Start out the day being thankful that our Creator has granted another day of your life. You are His unique creation, and He has something better for you. Then put aside all the negative thoughts you've been thinking and start looking for it. How we choose to perceive things, thinking for ourselves, making a conscious choice to look at all sides of the situation before we judge it, trying to approach life with a positive attitude, having patience and understanding can make such an incredible difference. Positive or negative, it's your choice. Every breath is a blessing, every heartbeat a godsend, and every day an act of God's grace. Let's all make the day count.